with a bridge over top of it that was 14 feet tall, and the water came almost up to the bridge. And so someone, I think it was you, Phyllis, who said, "Come back home, we need the rain." So, you're welcome. This text today always troubles me a little bit because Jesus is kind of rude. But it's a good text because Jesus commends this woman on her faith. He says, "Great is your faith." There's only twice in the entire Gospels where Jesus tells somebody, "Great is your faith." And it's never a disciple. It's never a Jewish person. It was a centurion and it was this woman. Both non-Jews. And it's only in the non-Jews that Jesus finds great faith. It's faith that we can even say was so great that it even overcame Jesus. Through her faith, Jesus was almost brought to his knees and said, "I have never, you have great faith that I have found, I'm not anywhere else." And so he heals her daughter. I think we can learn from this woman. We can learn to have faith like this woman. What I like to call overcoming faith. Faith that will help us overcome anything. And I think this woman provides a great example of what that faith could be like. Now, I want to preface this by saying that if you do everything that I say, I am not giving you a formula to go out and have everything your way. I'm not giving you a formula that if you live like this, Jesus will answer your every prayer the way you want it. But what I will tell you is that if you live this faith, you will find your life will be infinitely better. But it's not easy. The first thing this woman was humble. Jesus called her a dog. And what did she do? She basically said, "Yep." She basically barked. I don't know if you remember 3 years ago I gave a sermon on this, and I said, what do you do when Jesus calls you a dog? You bark. Because Jesus is Jesus, and we are who we are. And so she had great humility in that when Jesus said, "You are a dog, I didn't come here for you," she said, "Yeah, I know. I know who I am. I know what I am. I know I mean nothing to you, but please." I don't know if it were you or I. If it was me, and I was waiting for Jesus, expecting this gentle and kind person, and I said, "Jesus, please help me." And he said, "No, you're a dog." I would have said, "Why don't you say that to my face?" You know, because pride gets in the way. We are proud people. My whole life I've been told that I need to be proud of myself, that I need to have pride in myself, that I shouldn't let others put me down. My father was a Marine. He taught me that in elementary school, that if others are going to say something to you, you stand up for yourself. You know? We tell our kids that. Pride it's American. We need to have humility. It's hard to do. It's hard to be humble. This woman showed great care for her daughter. Care that goes beyond any type of prayer that I've ever heard anyone say or that I've ever said. When Jesus was walking by, what does she doesn't yell, "Lord, help my daughter." She yelled, "Lord, help me." She had taken on the burdens of her daughter's illness. She was there amongst the people. She had no pride left. She was desperate. And she was saying, "Lord, please help me, because without my daughter, I am nothing." To care for somebody so much is a hard thing to do. Catherine, congratulations. You just finished CPE. Woohoo. Catherine is going through a divinity school right now, theology at Trinity Lutheran Seminary, and part of the process is you have to work for us an entire summer working as a chaplain in a hospital. And you have to go into people's hospital rooms, and you need to hear what's going on in their lives. You need to pray with them and talk with them. But part of the training, Catherine, that they teach you is to walk in and care for these people while you're there. And then when you walk out, leave it all behind. Like you were never there. Because sometimes you walk into keep saying hotel room, a hospital room where somebody's dying and you're with their family and they can't make sense of it. And it's just gut-wrenching. And then you walk out and you walk into the hospital room of somebody who just had a baby and is about to go home. And you have to walk into the midst of their living hell, and then you have to walk into someone else's room, into the midst of their joyous new life that they're so excited about, and you need to be the same person for both. And so, as pastors, we have to learn to care for people when we're with them, but when we're not, kind of leave it behind. I was thinking this week of when I guess the first trait of being a pastor in my life was, and I guess it was in second grade. We were in history class, and they told us all about how George Washington died. He was on a horse in the middle of winter and got wet and got cold, and he died. And I was devastated as a second grader. It's like, oh, George! I mean, how could nobody have taken care of? I mean, I was literally troubled for like a week that George Washington died of a cold. How could they not know? He could still be alive today. I mean, but I think it's very easy to hear stories and to not care. To be a little bit too selfish to enter into somebody else's life, to really care about what's going on in their life. We say, how are you doing? But most of the time, we just want to know, good, how are you? If somebody were to actually open up to us and say, well, I'm really struggling with this, how many of us would actually want to hear that? But part of faith is caring so much about another person that you actually care about what's going on in their life, that you're willing to sit with them. It's a gift that not everybody has. I mean, our Stephen ministers have it, and they've been training. And if you need somebody to talk to, we have those people here. But it's a very hard thing to do, to care that much about others, that when you pray, you're not just praying for them. You're taking on their burdens and praying, Lord, please help me by helping them. And that when God does heal them, God is answering your prayer and actually saying, this is for you as well. So, faith that cares that much. And then faith, this woman was determined. Absolutely determined. She was there, she was screaming. And at first, what did Jesus do? Nothing. He just ignored her. I don't even hear you, I don't see you, I'm not paying attention to you. I don't know if you've ever been ignored, but it's not a very good feeling. She continues, and the disciples are like, do you want us to send her away? It's not like, I'm sure they heard her, or she heard them say that to Jesus. Do you want us to send her away? At that point, I'd be like, all right, I can get the hint myself, Jesus, listen, lady, I'm not here for you. I'm sorry. You're not part of the program. Go away. You're a dog. Determination. No, I'm not going anywhere. Even the dogs eat the food that falls from the master's table. We often are distracted instead of determined. And I thought of a great example this week. I had to drive Michelle and I to the airport so we can catch a flight to get back to Dallas on a Tuesday evening. And Detroit was literally flooded. You couldn't take any of the highways. And my parents live about 60 miles from the airport. And it just took a really long time. It took us probably over 2 hours to get there because we couldn't take any of the highways. And all the side streets were flooded. There was standing water in all the streets. And my mom and nephew came with me because they were going to drive back. And I have never been more focused driving a car. To the point where I was driving through standing water and trying to find the right lane and all the other cars. My nephew was telling me a story, and he was asking me a question about the story. And I said, I'm sorry, Andrew, I just can't pay attention to your story right now. Because I was so focused on driving that car. And by the time we got to the airport, I was exhausted. And I was like, wow, what would my life be like if I really focused this much on driving all the time? And so I was thinking, so very seldom do I focus on driving while I'm actually driving. Actually, last night I was driving to a friend's house, and I was writing a sermon while I was driving about how I don't focus on driving while I'm driving, which I found kind of ironic. But there's so many things in our cars that distract us from that actual art of driving. So I know some of you text and drive, and I know you shouldn't. I say some of you because I do it occasionally. I know some of you talk on the phone and drive. I do that. Or even just turn the radio while you're driving. Or even if the radio just plays your favorite song and you start to sing along, you start to, dance a little while you're driving. There's just so many ways to get distracted while driving. And to think, that's just a small part of life. Distractions are all over the place. We get distracted in our relationships with one another. When the wife comes home from work and, honey, how was your day? You tell me while I watch the Tiger game. I never do that. But then we're so distracted in our relationship with God too, because we're so busy with everything going on in life, with work, with school's coming up. I see 4 of our graduated seniors are leaving for college soon. Sarah, this is your last Sunday. Are you ready to move to Minnesota? I'm so excited. Yeah, you just get so busy with life that you just get distracted from your relationship with God. This woman was determined. And so Jesus looks at her faith and commends her for her faith. He says, wow, this is great faith. If Jesus looked at us, would he say the same thing? If Jesus looked at me, would he see the same thing? Or would he see my pride? Would he see my distractions? Would he see the times where I don't care about people as much as I should? Would he see my sins? Yeah, that's what he'd see. The good news is that Jesus saw her faith and said, I can do that. And he was humiliated. When he was arrested, when he was whipped, when he was nailed to a cross. And he died because he cared for others so deeply that he would rather die than see them suffer needlessly because of their sins. And Jesus was determined to show us how much God loved us, that he descended into hell and 3 days later rose again. And he sent the word out that God is love and that God is for everyone, even those who he once thought were dogs. God's love is for you. God's love is for all. And it's our job to tell everyone about a God who once saw a woman and called her a dog and then died for her. Amen.